In this video, we're going to talk about how to create a histogram in Google Sheets. So in this example, what I'm wanting to look at is the growth scores pre to through post for the Unit 1 pre-score and the Unit 1 post-score. And what I'm going to do is to look at this using a histogram. By the way, if you are using Excel, the process is basically the same. What I'm going to do is to first of all select the column by clicking on the top of the column. In this case, it's column J. Then I'm going to go to Insert, and I'm going to go to Chart. Google Sheets then goes ahead and creates me a histogram of my growth scores. But I want to talk about some of the things that you can do with this histogram. So first of all, I'm going to go to Customize the histogram. And when I do this, I can go under Customize, I can choose the histogram. And this is where we call the bucket. Sometimes it's also called the bin. And right now it's set to Auto. So if you will look at the bin right now, each of these bars have a different, are equal in size. So minus 30 through minus 20.56 is this first bin. Minus 20.56 through minus 11.11 is the second bin or bucket. And this looks really interesting. This tells me that most of my growth scores, when I look at the growth, was between minus 1.67 and 7.78. That's where most of my growth scores were. The students grew by that much, either minus growth or plus growth. I can go ahead though and go here under the bucket. And let's say that I just want to look at everything within groups of 5 points. And I can then change that so that it makes it a little easier for me to see where this growth was taking place. It just sort of breaks down the data a little bit differently. So now I can see that my highest growth looks like it's between 0 and 5 points. One small caveat, these scores here, what you're looking at, if it says it's between 0 and 5, it's really between 0 and 4.9999999 or less than 5. I can also change this if I want to really get down to a little bit lower. I can change it to 2 even if I want to. Or I can make it bigger. I can change it to 10. So if I look at 10, between 0 and 10, this is how many students grew between a 0 growth and 10 growth. So whichever one works the best for you, then that's what you would use. And if you want to customize things, you can go in and you can customize the titles. You can customize the formats. You can customize the autofill for the colors, for the lines and things like that, if you would like to. So like I can click here, and I wanted to make this chart red. I can click in red. And if I want to put a black line or black border, I can do that as well. If you want to do this in Excel, it's pretty much the same. You will go in to your data. In Excel, you'll highlight or select your column, and then you will go in and go to the chart tool and create your histogram. Now you may be asking what the difference is between a histogram and a bar chart. So a histogram shows continuous data. It's measurement data. It's data that can take any number. And so, for example, in the case of a test score, a test score can be between say a 0 to 100. So this is continuous data. And also, we talked about the buckets. You can change those buckets in a histogram. you will notice that there's not much space or any space in between this chart. And that's one way we can tell that this is a histogram and not a bar or column chart. Because of this, we were able to use this growth pre and post to do a histogram. But let's say we wanted to look at the rubric score. So a rubric score is not any number. It's either 1, 2, 3, or 4. And so that is categorical data. And if you're going to show categorical data, you're going to use a bar chart. So let me show you quickly about creating this bar chart though, because it's a little tricky in Google Sheets to get the kind of bar charts you want. So first thing we're going to do is we're going to select column K here, just like we did before. And we're going to go to Insert, and we're going to go to Chart. But look what happens when we do it. It tries to create a histogram automatically, and that's not what we want because, once again, this is categorical data, and a histogram is not going to work. I'll show you another reason how you can tell that the histogram is wrong for this, by the way. If I was to go in this histogram and customize it, just like we did before, and do the bucket size, think about what bucket size I'm going to need to use. There's only 4 values, 1, 2, 3, or 4. And so if you want to see how many scores were in that bucket, you would have to change the bucket size to a 1. Now we're seeing that between 2 and 3, or as we talked about, it's really between 2 and 2.9999999. There is this many students, there's this many scores. 3 and 4, and when you look at 4, it only goes to 4.5. And the reason this is happening is these are all the 2s, these are all the 3s, these are all the 4s. So, but this isn't exactly the kind of chart we want to use. We want to actually use a bar chart. So I'm going to go back to Setup. And I'm going to change this to a bar chart. So I'm going to go down to here, or I'm going to use a column chart, bar chart, in Google Sheets go that way, and column charts are the ones that look more like the histogram. So I'm going to try just a plain old column chart. And whoa, look what happens. That is nuts. That's not going to tell us anything because it's not sorted in any way. And I've played around with this and struggled with this some, and I've come up with the easiest way, I think, to do this. Now, there might be another way, and if you have an easier way of doing this, please let me know. So I'm going to go into the series, and I'm just going to remove all the series. And when I do this, there's no data in this. And then I'm going to go back down here right below where I just was, and I'm going to add it back in. And when I do, there's still no data here, but a new button has popped up that says Aggregate. And if I click on the Aggregate button, boom, that's what we want. We want this wonderful little column chart, bar chart, however you want to call it. And now you can easily see the number of 2s, the number of 3s, and the number of 4s. And apparently we had nobody who scored a 1 in this data set. You can then go in and customize these numbers, just like in the other. You can customize each of these bars, make them colorful, however you want to do that. And by the way, there's a lot of space in between these, whereas in that histogram, there was just very little space, or sometimes no space. No space because it's continuous data. More space because these are categorical data points. By the way, we would definitely want to change this, and we would want to say, like a column chart or a bar chart of the rubric score for writing.